I had a chance to get down there a couple of weeks ago just to jump off the football bandwagon for a second. Bryson DeChambeau is going to have everybody talking this week. I'm just going to tell you guys, I saw some things that I've never seen before on the golf course, so it'll be cool to watch. We may see something we've never seen before in the NFL, and that's a season that keeps going and going and going if you can't get all the games in. So, Mike Florio, can you just synthesize what the competition committee and then the owners eventually this week decided on how they'll handle things if we don't stay on schedule the rest of the way?
Well, it's not finalized yet, and the NFL Players Association may have something to say about this because there is a duty to bargain with the union before expanding the playoffs. But the tentative plan is simple. Plan A, get all 256 games played in 17 weeks and proceed with a 14-team playoff field. Plan B, use an 18th weekend for any makeup games, and if you make them all up, 14-team playoff field. Plan C, if you lose any of the games despite that extra week of makeup games, that's when they go to the 16-team field. Now, there's been some caveats like they have to be meaningful games that are lost, and I don't know what will ultimately flip the switch on going to 16 teams. But if any games are lost, that's when the possibility arises of 8 teams per conference, like they did back in 1982 when the strike reduced the season to 9 games per team.
Tony and Rodney, what do you think of that?
Coach, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm hopeful that we do get to play every game. That's what you want as a competitor. I'm glad we've got these provisions in place, but let's just pray we get to play all the games.
And if I'm a player, I'm willing to play more playoff games because I get an opportunity to get a check. I get an opportunity to get that exposure and play in the playoffs while a lot of other teams are just sitting at home. So, yeah, if I'm a player, I wouldn't mind. I'll definitely be open to playing extra game.
I think it's become a more realistic conversation. We've seen the SEC just this week lose pretty much half of its schedule. So as the virus spreads in the country, it's naturally going to touch the NFL a little bit more. So we'll have to watch that. And then, Mike, there was part B of it regarding compensation for teams that entertain and eventually get more minority candidates to that step before, if not the step of hiring in the interview process. Can you synthesize what the outcome of that conversation was for everyone?
Yes, it's a reversal from something that Coach and I talked at length about earlier this year when there was consideration given to awarding compensatory draft picks to teams who hire minority coaches or minority general managers. Now the reward goes not to the team that makes the hire, but to the team that develops the candidate to the point where he becomes attractive as a coach or a GM with another team. That team, if it employed the minority candidate for 2 or more years, gets 2 third-round draft picks if and when that person becomes a head coach or a GM with another team. So the incentive is now to create a robust pipeline of diverse and inclusive candidates. And, Coach, I've been saying all week, they need to get away from employment at these lower jobs based on who you know and who you're related to, and this is an incentive to do that.
It really is, Mike, and I'm in favor of this. I did some work with the Fritz Pollard Alliance, and we were kind of working on tweaking this, and it really does make sense. We know when you're hiring people in those entry-level positions, a lot of times it goes to your son or your nephew. If I was there, I'd hire my son, obviously. But when you think about that now, hey, I'm going to hire a quality control person on offense. If I can hire a young, bright minority candidate, and 5 years from now we're going to get a third-round draft choice, that might tip the scale a little bit and cause me to think, well, maybe I don't need to hire the first person I see on this resume sheet, or I don't need to hire one of my relatives. Let me do something for the team. And then that's going to help that pipeline that we all seem to be talking about.
Coach, I don't know, just sitting here listening and just kind of just thinking about everything, to me, I'm actually insulted. Because to me, it's just insulting to have to offer incentives for an organization to hire somebody of color or a black person. And to me, if we're good enough to play on the field, we're good enough to do different things, we're good enough to be able to coach and get into the front office and go in there and change some of the policies and things like that. And that's why it's so important. And that's why we root for Raheem Morris and Brian Flores and Mike Tomlin. That's why we root for these coaches to have success, because if they don't have success and they fail, that's just another excuse for the owners to come in and say, well, we hired, we gave him a chance. But of course, the black coach couldn't make it. So that's why every single week we root for these guys.
No question. And that's, Rodney, exactly why I was kind of against the first iteration we had of this, of rewarding that team that hired the coach, because I think you're absolutely right. Nobody wants to come on that level. But as you look back on it, I'll take you back to my career as a coach. I come in 1996. I'm a young head coach ready to go, trying to hire a staff. And I know the problems that young African Americans had getting started. So I hired Lovie Smith out of college, and I hired Herm Edwards when he wasn't in the NFL. And I knew that those guys could do it and they needed to be in there. But somebody who doesn't have that mindset, who doesn't think, well, gosh, these entry-level positions make a difference, now giving them some incentive and saying, you know what, if you'll at least go out there and investigate and look for the best people, somewhere down the road your organization may benefit. So take your time, still hire the best people, but you know what? There's some incentive to look around. And I think this is going to help. I really do.
And Coach, and that's one of the reasons why I respect you so much, and so many people across the league respect you so much, because you didn't get to a point of success and you said, forget about everyone else. You said, you know what? I'm going to bring people along. I'm going to use my experience and all the information that I know. I'm going to teach other people and empower them. And that's why I have so much respect for you. And that's why so many other people, whether it's players, coaches, scouts, they always talk to me, hey, tell Coach Dungy I said hello, because they know what type of person you are. And that's what it's about ultimately, Mike Tirico.
Ditto. Times 1,000. Couldn't agree more with what you said. Rodney, can I just double back to what you were talking about? Quota systems obviously get people very uptight and very concerned on both sides of it. Nobody wants token assignments or token jobs given. But this system hasn't worked. So they got to find something that's going to work a bit better. And I do love the fact, and Tony, for all the work that your group did, that you helped the Fritz Pollard Association group do, at least it gives some relatively intelligent direction to, we are incentivizing you to do this and to develop. I agree, you should be doing it automatically. But if the pipeline doesn't get full with more candidates, people aren't going to get to the top with a real chance to succeed. So I hear what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. But I also, at the same time, think we can applaud what's being done here, because I do think it's going to give more minorities a real chance. And more importantly, head coaches, owners, the establishment in the league, which has been largely white men, the opportunity to develop these guys and the incentive to develop them. And guess what? They're going to realize we can develop anybody who looks in any color or shape or anything else. Go ahead, Tony. You're going to say something. I'm sorry.
And Mike, I'm going to interrupt Rodney here for a little bit and just say hopefully this will get across to people in the NFL. This is good for all of us. This is going to make for a better league. When I go back to 1996, I can tell you, I got criticized. I got killed in the Tampa media. Lovie Smith, who is that? Where is he from? Herm Edwards, he's not coaching in the league. We need some experience. I hired Mike Tomlin when he was 29 years old. Where did he come from? University of Cincinnati? Nobody was on these guys when you could see they were talented. And when they got in and got a chance to show what they could do, it was just a couple of years when everybody was beating down the door trying to get these guys. But getting that opportunity and getting people to say, you know what, let's think outside the box. Let's get away from people we think are candidates and give some people an opportunity who are really bright, and let's see what they can do. And hopefully this will help that.
Mike, I appreciate you saying what you're saying, and Coach explaining it even more. It gives me a better understanding. Yeah, I have some underlying feelings because I just don't think that we're less than. I get tired of people thinking that because we're black men that we're less than. We work hard, we have knowledge, we're smart, we study, we prepare, we do all those different things. But I appreciate that perspective from both of you guys, because it gave me something different to look at. Thank you.
And Rodney, I think the most important thing, and let's not get too far away from where we were as a country in May. The number one thing we need to do is listen. Right? We need to listen and understand more. And by you expressing how you feel about it helps me understand it better and see it better. So the most important thing we can all do, we don't have to all agree, but at least if we listen and understand, I know how you feel about it. I understand how people feel marginalized, that you're a female or an African-American or of this race or this gender or anything else. So we have to have one of you in the group. No, you want to be there because of your merits and your talents and your abilities. So it's a difficult line, but it's opportunity. And if the door of opportunity opens, I have a friend who is a second generation in sports media, who said, my last name opened the door for me. There's no doubt about it. But it's my responsibility to keep the door open, to walk through that door, and to succeed and open the door for people behind me. And I love that because that's what this opportunity is for a lot of folks. Mike Florio, I'll give you the last word on this before we move back to the field.
Well, I think back to 2002 when the NFL passed the Rooney Rule under threat of litigation from the late Johnny Cochran and Cyrus Mehri. And that worked. At least that effort worked to get the Rooney Rule passed because it was so bad. And it was so much worse then than now. But 18 years later, it really isn't in the grand scheme of things all that much better. So the league doing what it has to do to try to improve the pipeline. And I really do think that's the key, guys. It's the pipeline. The more candidates in the pipeline, the more that naturally the best will rise to the top, regardless of skin color, regardless of background, regardless of anything. That pipeline just needs to be more robust.
And we've seen that coaching fellowships, coaches who come to training camps to learn to be around the NFL, then go back to their college jobs. Hopefully all of this continues to get it forward to a better and a more equitable place. Let's talk ball on the field, guys. We're past the halfway point here. So now we've done a little bit of separating of who is who. I want to go through 4 divisions and see where you're thinking. And Tony, I'll start with you, and I'll start out west in the NFC West, where maybe it's a little upside down from what we thought it would be at the start of the year.
Well, it is, and I guess the word is look out for Arizona. They're probably the team that's a little better than we thought they would be. San Francisco, the injuries have just hit them. I don't know if they can recover from that. Seattle got off to the hot start. I worry about their defense. The Rams may be the most complete team in that division. We'll have to see how their quarterback plays down the stretch in these big games, but watch out for Arizona, I think.
I would say in the NFC West, I like the Rams. I think offensively, I'm very comfortable with what they do. They can score points. I think they have the best defense in the division. But when you talk about Arizona, to me, they're just a little disappointing because you see losses to the Lions, you see losses to the Panthers, and their defense is kind of up and down. And Kyler, he's exciting, he's outstanding, he can do a lot of different things, but he's still a young quarterback. So when I look at that division, I like the Rams, Mike Florio.
And the Rams had the best weekend of anyone in the division because they didn't play, so they couldn't lose. Everybody else lost, right? So the Rams are right there. But if there was only one team I could watch any given week, it would be the Cardinals because of Kyler Murray. He is so exciting. He's so dynamic, and their games are typically very entertaining. And they're right there, one game behind the Seahawks. They hold the preliminary tiebreaker. They'll play Seattle again soon. I believe it's a Thursday night game coming up within a few weeks. But I think Arizona's got the talent if they can just hold it together, make good decisions. You know, when you run the ball on 4th and short, don't go in shotgun formation. How are you going to get 4th and short on shotgun? And let Kyler Murray run the ball. And don't kick a 49-yard field goal if your guy can't make it to the crossbar.
But that's
for
what
crying
they do,
out loud.
Florio.
So if they can iron some of that out, of the back half of the season, maybe they could take the division.
Just one last capper point here. Seattle plays at the Rams this week, Arizona that following week, like you were talking about, Mike. I think a lot of the pivoting for the positioning post-Thanksgiving will be determined in the NFC West the next couple of weeks. Rodney, that Arizona defense misses Chandler Jones. You know, he was right there at the top of the league in sacks, and that guy to get pressure on the quarterback is missing in big spots. And let's see Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray now on the bigger stage, where games are more important. You have to prove yourselves in year 2. Can you handle these games where this much makes a difference in win or loss? Let me flip this, Rodney, and take the team that beat Arizona in a late, exciting game last week, and that's Miami. Over in the AFC East, Miami, Buffalo. Okay, Rodney, for your interest, I'll keep the Patriots in the conversation as well.
You don't have
to. Who do you like?
Man, that's a tough one. And I know every week you hear Coach and I, we're talking about the Miami Dolphins. And you know what? I like, so you talking about to win the division or to possibly get in the playoffs?
Yes, win the division. Let's go. Come on.
I would have to give.
You can do it.
I'm gonna say Buffalo at this point, just because Josh Allen and just having more experience than Tua. And you know what? I was really impressed with Tua, Coach, from week 1 to week 2. Just the progression, the confidence, everything that he did, rolling out, making people miss, taking hits, throwing the ball down the field. I thought he looked phenomenal from week 1 to week 2.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you and pick Buffalo. But if the season were 20 weeks long, I think I might lean towards Miami. I love their defense. I love the toughness that Brian Flores has brought to that team. I think Tua's going to grow. Look out for Miami next year. I think they've got a really, really good shot to make the playoffs this year. I think Buffalo wins it, but look out for Miami in 21, 22, 23.
I'm still concerned about the Bills' running game. Now, against the Seahawks, they didn't try to use it very much, and the Seahawks didn't plan accordingly, as Pete Carroll admitted after the game. But Josh Allen snapped out of whatever that was. You know, when they got hit in the mouth by the Titans and they lost to the Chiefs, I think they lost some confidence. They gradually built it back, and now they're riding a wave after beating the Seahawks. They have to go to Arizona this week. Let's see if they can continue it.
What snapped them out of it was the Seattle defense. The Seattle defense snapped them out of it.
That's true. That's true. But, you know, I think Miami is that team that the way they've won and they've been, you know, they've been 43-17 over the 49ers and smacked down the Rams and going on the road and beating a good Arizona team. I think Miami's the one that can kind of sneak up on the outside and take it. But I will say this about the Patriots. We talked earlier about the playoff field expanding to 16. I think whoever gets the 1 seed in the AFC doesn't want that if the 8th seed ends up being the Patriots. That's not the team you want, coming in with nothing to lose in a wild card round when you're otherwise going to be sitting home on the couch watching football that weekend. Now you got to play the Patriots instead of getting your bye week. No, thank you.
Mike, stop it. Stop it. Nobody's sitting. Hold on. Stop it. Nobody's sitting at home with the number 1 seed. Oh, my God, I'm really worried about the Patriots. Like, stop it. Like, what are you trying to create? I know there's a level of...
Come on. Oh, wait a minute. Bill Belichick... single elimination, I would much rather have that week off. That's my point. Give me the bye week.
You're saying if I'm Kansas City, I'm sitting and I'm Andy Reid, I'm over here scared to death because of Bill Belichick, who hasn't played one play in the last 30 years. I'm not afraid of the Patriots. I want the Patriots. This is when you want the Patriots. And that's the thing about the Patriots. Nobody feels sorry for the Patriots. Every single week, teams are going to come out and try to kick their butts because that's exactly what the Patriots have been doing the last 2 decades. So nobody feels sorry for the Patriots. If I'm Kansas City, I definitely want the Patriots.
I'd rather stay home.
We saw, though, last week, this is a do-or-die game for the Patriots. Sam Darnold, the quarterback of the Jets, is not playing. The Jets' best defensive player is not playing, and it took a miraculous rally and some bad play by the Jets down the stretch to give New England a chance to win that game. Yeah, I just don't see the same New England team that we've seen in the past, Rodney.
Agree with all that,
ahead,
but
Mike.
you can't kill them. They still find a way. So wait till Sunday night when you all pick the Ravens. Just wait. Just wait for that on Football Like America. Stay tuned for that. Let me wrap up with this, guys. 2 quick ones. The NFC and the AFC South. After what you saw Sunday night in the game between Tampa and New Orleans, Rodney, do you think clear advantage New Orleans now?
Listen, guys, I told you last week, I asked you guys all a question. I said, are we overrating Tampa Bay? Didn't I ask you guys that?
You did.
Oh, no. And maybe we're overrating them, and I got caught up in the hype, too. You see the names on the jersey, and automatically, sometimes you feel like it's going to automatically snap. No, and me and Coach, we talked about this last week. It takes time to continue to build that continuity and chemistry. And I'll just say this as my last point. I'm going to tell you who has the most to prove. It's Bruce Arians. What has he done the last 3 years? He's been average, 7-8-1, 8-8, 7-9. So we talk about Tom Brady and these players and AB. No, it's Bruce Arians that has a lot to prove because he's got all the weapons. He's got a top defense. He's got all these weapons. He's got the quarterback he wants. Now let's see if you can make it work instead of getting blown out on national television.
Yeah, I agree. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't show what I thought they were going to show on Sunday night. But New Orleans has been a little up and down, too. They've had some tough games and games where they didn't show it. So let's see how it comes down the stretch. I will say this. Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders make a big difference. When you give Drew Brees that weaponry, if those guys can stay healthy, I think they're going to have the edge in the NFC South. AFC South, gosh, I don't know. I'll give that one to Mike Florio.
Yeah, AFC South, I think it comes down to what we see on Thursday night between the Colts and the Titans. Whoever wins that game establishes the edge in their 2 games per year series, and that team's going to be the favorite. But in the NFC South, look, if they, as you said, Coach, they have Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. They keep them healthy. They use Taysom Hill the way they used him on Sunday night to keep the defense on its heels and ready to get out of the way when that guy's running at you full speed ahead. But the one flaw continues to be not getting the ball down the field in the passing game. They're going to come against a team in the playoffs at some point that takes away everything underneath and forces them to try to throw it over the top. And unless they're willing to put the ball in Taysom Hill's hands repeatedly, they're not going to get the ball 30, 40 yards down the field, and that could be the thing that kills them.
Good, Rodney, you're going to say something.
One of the things, guys, that you're missing, it's all offensive talk, but defensively, this was really an impressive game to me because they're able to create pressure with the front four. And even every week we see Marshawn Lattimore and all those guys getting beat, blowing coverages, and they didn't in the secondary. And that's a big help when you're out there competing against some of the best offenses in the league.
Yeah, and I thought about that, Rodney, as we were watching the game, that you have said for 12 years, to play Tom Brady, you have to rush, get pressure on him with that front four, and play tight man-to-man coverage. They had the formula Sunday night, and it worked to perfection.
Amen.
I've said this a few times, so I apologize for repeating it, but Dennis Allen's done a really good job with that New Orleans defense over the last couple of years. Remember, the Saints, it was like they had to outscore everybody. They can win these slugfest right now. So we mentioned the AFC South real quick. Rodney and Tony, I'll let you guys get in as the last word on the AFC South.
If I had to favor a team, it would probably be the Tennessee Titans, just for the simple fact when you watch Phillip Rivers, the offense is very limited. They have some really good young weapons, good young running back, but they're limited in what they can do offensively because he's a statue. He's back there. There's guys open, but he cannot, create more time to make plays down the field. So I like Ryan Tannehill because he can scramble and move around a little bit, Coach.
Yeah, I love Indy's defense. I think they're a little bit better than Tennessee, but I worry about Phillip Rivers, the big turnover at the wrong time, and I think that's going to be the key in this Thursday night game coming up. Can Phillip Rivers avoid the big turnover at the wrong time?
Tennessee's offensive line was so good. Taylor Lewan out for the year. They couldn't get the guys who they were looking for. Derrick Henry's yards per carry is not what it was. The dump truck, then what'd you upgrade him to, Tony? From a dump truck to
F-150. He was rolling there for a while.
Right. We're gonna since Toyota's our halftime sponsor, we're gonna get him to like a Toyota Tundra. We'll get you to switch to a
Silverado.
No, that's Chevy. We gotta go Toyota Tundra.
Gotta
be sponsored
keep Toyota,
right? That's Rodney. I'm just trying to get wheels in your hands, man. But the point is, like they need to have that for Jonnu Smith and everything else, and not to put it on Tannehill. And that's what I'm really going to watch with them the next couple of weeks. Can they figure it out up front? Lastly, guys, so let me get a thought from everyone on our Monday to Sunday night game. Any night of the week you pick. Baltimore against New England. Obviously, we just talked about the Patriots. Rods, I'll start with you with the Ravens as you look at them going into the business part of the season. 2 back from Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's not a team that you can't see losing games. You can see situations where now Pittsburgh isn't going to run through everyone. So what do you think about the Ravens?
Still trying to figure them out, Mike. And I think they're still trying to figure out their offense. But for the Patriots, the number one thing will have to be stopping Lamar in this run game. I know Coach is going to play a lot more man-to-man coverage. He's got to load the box and try to stop him. Last year, they couldn't stop him with Patrick Chung and Hightower and all those guys. And now you're playing a bunch of young guys. I'm really concerned about them being able to stop the run game. I anticipate Baltimore maybe running 30-plus times at least because they can't stop the run.
And I would agree with you that this game is going to come down to who does stop the run. And then if the run does get stopped, does Cam Newton make the plays or does Lamar Jackson? Who do you have more confidence in? And I agree with you, Rodney. The Patriots secondary is tremendous, but that might not even be a factor. If they can't stop them from running the football, we may not even hear about those secondary guys during the course of the game.
When I talked to John Harbaugh after the win over the Colts, and maybe there's a little bit of a Lou Holtz flavor to what he was saying, but he did seem to be concerned that it's the Patriots. It's still Bill Belichick. You have to be ready. And he's got a young team. You know, they've established themselves so well over the past couple of years. We forget this is a young team for the most part. They're still learning how to win big games. They beat the Patriots last year when the Patriots were undefeated. Now they have to do it when they're the one that's supposed to win the game. That's going to be the challenge, to hold it together and stay focused and not think about the next NBC game on the horizon for the Ravens a couple of weeks from now when they get the Steelers again in Pittsburgh.
Well, it's week 10. We're starting to think about matchups, who can make the playoffs. You saw Steve Kornacki, our friend from MSNBC, with the board. We're old school, man. We got the games. I wrote out the playoff possibilities. So here we go. It's that time of year. We're getting excited for that.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.